Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that you are now live on YouTube.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Area Museum Committee meeting. This is the last one of our four-year term. Welcome. So, if I can ask Lauren, welcome to Lauren. This is her first Area Museums Committee meeting, which has taken a minute. So, if I can ask Lauren to do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bubb.
Present.
Councillor De Wally.
Present.
Councillor Kemp. Councillor Knuckles.
Present.
Councillor Tyler.
Present.
Councillor Bambridge.
Present.
Councillor Horsburgh.
Present.
I've had apologies from Councillor Daubney and Councillor Dawson. I've also received apologies from Councillor Ward and Councillor Kybird. And today we've got Oliver Bone from the Lynn Museum, Robin Hanley from Norfolk Museum Service. I've received apologies from Philip Eek and also apologies from Rachel Williams from Stories of Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So please may I remind members that the meeting is being recorded and streamed live via YouTube. And by attending this meeting, you are giving your permission to be recorded and streamed. And also, could I ask you, if you do ask a question or speak, would you please use your microphone and then turn it off afterwards? Thank you. So you all have your agendas. And we've had apologies. So could I ask you to confirm the minutes are correct from our last meeting, please? Agree. Agree. Thank you very much. Any matters arising? No. Okay, any declarations of interest? No. Okay, then so we quickly go down to the important part of our agenda, report of the Assistant Head of Museums. And I'll show Oliver wants to give this part of the report now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, yes, we introduced the report which has appeared in November last year through to February of 2023. And the first section, as will be familiar to members, really details how the service continues to manage challenges around both COVID and wider infection control. So just to reassure members that we continue to maintain the site infrastructure that we're also familiar with now, including hand sanitisation and cleaning regimes. And we also continue to be very careful around monitoring ventilation levels as a means of reducing risk of people after COVID or indeed other infections, particularly in the winter period. So we've not really changed our approach over the last few months. We continue to make, I think, really effective use of CO2 monitors across the service, including here in King's Lynn, and these have been really helpful in terms of us being able to make sure that staff and visitors are kept safe, but also that we can be confident about levels of activity within spaces, particularly areas like offices, storerooms that during COVID we had really tight controls on. It's just in a way enabling us to be confident about gradually increasing visitor numbers, and that's helped with increasing those of staff using spaces like the office at the museum, but also improving our confidence about volunteers returning. So those monitors continue to be deployed across the service. They plug into the LoRaWAN area network, which means that we can monitor live data, and it means that managers can sort of keep an eye on trends and make informed decisions about individual spaces. Also, just to draw everyone's attention to item 1.6 around volunteering. So I've reported in previous meetings, volunteering really important to the operation of the Norfolk Museum Service. I'm really pleased to report that volunteering pretty much got back to pre-COVID levels. We continue to accommodate individual concerns from volunteers, and we update our code of conduct to ensure that volunteers who may be in some cases more anxious, they can be supported appropriately. So really pleased to report that across the service we've seen a return to site-based volunteering, and that's been really critical in terms of maintaining momentum around our collections, our work and learning, and in many cases just general solid running. So that's been really pleasing. So I'll pause there, Chair. If anybody has any questions about section 1 or hand on the section.
I think I've got one question about volunteering. I understand that the Civic Society are having a day to publicise the King's Lynn, West Norfolk, and that there are many his heritage sites who like to invite volunteers to actually show visitors around and to actually like yourselves have things taken by camera, photograph to tell them. Are you taking part in that?
I'm not aware of plans, but I think it's a great idea, a great scheme, and so it's a group of Civic Society.
Yeah, I believe it's in June.
Thank you for that information.
I also understand that our future King, King Charles, has I think he's requested that the actual volunteer aspect of life, I suppose you could say, he wants it publicised more to encourage more volunteers to come forward as well. So whether I'm not, it did say just charities, but it's not just charities who like to have volunteers involved in their business. So you can sort of see how that's being advertised as well.
We'll make sure that our volunteer coordinator, Michelle Gaskin, will also so Michelle have the remit to support colleagues as well across the service and use any levers already in terms of raising awareness of the honors we've had across the service.
I just thought it was from your point, that it was good if volunteers were better recognised. I mean, I volunteered for many years and I'm a bit of a serial volunteer. And I'm already finding myself up for things after May. I have to stop myself. There was an event up here actually that was organised by volunteer coordination at the Queen's Hospital. And there were lots of different groups that I don't know how widely it was publicised for people to take part, but those events do pick up volunteers. So that one would be good. And I may get my name back. It's a commitment. I need a week off afterwards. I'll be better.
Just to say, Chair, that we've got many new volunteers, obviously, and in terms of recognition of volunteers, absolutely right, really important, and members may be aware of the GEMS Volunteer Awards. So SHARE, as you'll be aware, is the museum development organisation that is hosted by the Service under our County London, but which provides support and advice to museums across the east of England. And one of its really successful pieces of work is around the annual volunteer awards, which actually do seek out to recognise the contribution that volunteers make. And I'm pleased to report that the museum service volunteers are regular winners and nominees of that award, and recognition of the role that volunteers play is really important. The other thing I should say as well is that we are obviously alert to any opportunities to work with colleagues locally and indeed regionally around developing volunteers. We've been part of conversations with our council colleague going to the Guildhall project, looking at some of the challenges around volunteer capacity. Mindful that not every volunteer that was operating pre-COVID is during, and some people have no different sort of expectations around volunteering, but it's then accommodating them. It's also continuing the service all the organisations that rely on volunteers keep show on the road as we do. So I think where we can work in partnership with those, we absolutely seek to do that. If members are aware of any opportunities to apply for volunteering, then we'd be great reason here.
Okay. That's okay.
Yes, thank you, and I know that you started the coffee mornings up again. I know that they were dementia friendly coffee mornings, and you have such a tremendous set of resources. To what extent would it be possible to extend this to actually do outreach work in care homes, taking in objects and artifacts? So I know this has been very successfully done in the past, where people maybe have a little film about time like the 19th, suddenly come alive and start to talk and discussing people that just normally having to sit there in the care home. So how could this be developed?
Could we and have that question answered within the report where it shows the coffee mornings? It just keeps the structure, right, especially for the minutes as well. Okay, so
I hope this does come under the question, does come under the remit of volunteering. But I wasn't aware of this until fairly recently, but apparently, I think annually, if I understand things correctly, I think possibly in April, a group of pilgrims come to King's Lynn, to the Red Mount, and I wonder whether, if this is the case, whether volunteers or anybody from either volunteers or people from Borough Council or Museum Service was able to try and meet them in some way, or is that not something that's practical?
So I know, Chair, that in the past, the volunteers supporting the Reverend Chapel and so again have been, I guess, the go-to people for that situation. Those volunteer teams were obviously supported through the Borough Council, so not directly through us. But certainly in the past, we have worked with other volunteer teams, including those opportunities. I don't know if that's linked to the policy.
Yes, I think it may.
could I just say that we are publicising the fact that the Safe Gate and the Red Mount will be open this evening, so and asking for volunteers, and hopefully that team will be able to open the Red Mount ready for the Walsingham pilgrims. It's usually Good Friday, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And some of the villages come out and support you and these in the village hall to sleep in or providing food. So
Just make sure you use your microphone.
Council
Generally, excuse my
microphone.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, so yes, probably it's quite busy with the pilgrims coming with their going across from all over. And people on route, they stay, I think, Bassino and various places on route for the night. And people do follow our volunteers on route to help.
Yeah.
Because it's well advertised, so yeah.
Thank you.
But if they're coming through here, I mean, I would imagine the St. Mary's London Road would come out with what I think all denominations do.
Thank you. Right, so if we could go to the exhibitions and events at the Living Room, please.
Thank you, Chair. So item 2 in the report on page 14 starts with a report about the current Forwards exhibition, Archaeological Treasures from West Norfolk. And looking around the room, I know that many, if not all, of the people here have been able to come along to see the exhibition. And on the bottom of page 15, we've got a photograph of the opening event opened by the Mayor back in October. Our usual pattern is for the exhibitions to start in the summer and run for a year. But this one, last year we had 2 exhibitions because we had the Turner painting and other paintings alongside. So we started the 4th exhibition in the autumn, and it will now run through till the autumn this year. And we're finding that this is really enjoying it. So we can do it for the museum and for this show. we're using the entrance display case for display of some recently acquired coins from Norfolk, and there's a detail of those ones in the report. It's given us a good opportunity to display some of the recently acquired items that we've been working enough to acquire for town collections with grant aid from various sources listed in the report. We've also had very good publicity for the exhibition, and those links link to websites where it's promoted by BBC, EDP, and Kingston Magazine are very keen on supporting what we do at the museum, which is great. We have been lucky enough to have sort of publicity through visitors, social media, and there's a copy of one of the tweets there with the beautiful glass objects that we've got on display that were found at Potwell Roman Temple and painstakingly glued together by our experts and conservative colleagues in Norwich. And it's a great opportunity to display their wonderful conservation work. And we also use the theme of the exhibition to inform our programming of events and activities. And it was good in February to welcome David Lynn, who's been doing this amazing research project. He's in looking at the civil war defences, and he gave an excellent talk to a full Paris Civil Museum in February. Our next exhibition is going to be linked to our taxidermy tiger that we have that's been welcoming museum visitors for Lynn Museum for probably, it's not been nearly 100 years now. I think it came in the 1920s, and we get grandparents bringing their grandchildren, and they remember coming as grandchildren with their grandparents, which is rather nice. And the link is to this exhibition around Judith Kerr's book, children's book, The Tiger Came to Tea. It's Judith Kerr's centenary this year, and this exhibition features a 8-foot high cuddly tiger, and you may know the story, recreation of the kitchen, and we're able to display as part of it some of Judith Kerr's illustrations. I would want to bring out some of our tiger-related collections as well in connection with this exhibition. And then future exhibitions we're planning includes one around the moon, and the Lynn Museum has this amazing ceiling space with the old chapel, and a giant inflatable moon is the sort of the main exhibit of this exhibition. We're going to be able to display that high up in the museum for you to look at, and then use the displays, which include a piece of moon rock for people able to touch. So you have to see an illustration of a blow up moon, and also touch something that came from the moon, which would be amazing. And then next summer, we'll be displaying an exhibition themed around dogs from all sorts of angles, including natural history, archaeology, art, and social history. So I think that will be a popular one. Great. And then item 2.3, we continue to offer a good selection of events at the museum. We'll be coming to our list of figures at the end of the reports, but I think the excellent team we've got at the Lynn Museum enabling a variety of different events and activities really help our good visitor figures at the museum. And I attended with my granddaughter the Egyptians event that is illustrated in the report, and it was a full museum with lots of children enjoying themselves. And we know that the Egyptian themes are popular ones. It's a bit like dinosaurs, that's another one, but we know this one. And the Egyptian event was a great success. Just a couple more items in this section of the report, then I'll pause for any questions there may be. So 2.4, we've started up again our popular mini museum activities, which is aimed at carers and children from 0 to 4, and they come and take part in a various variety of different activities in the museum. And very pleased with how popular those have been. And it's good to get them young, isn't it? To start thinking about visiting the museum and to introduce families to the museum in a welcoming way. And item 2.5 has been mentioned already about coffee mornings. And we've started these up again, the monthly coffee mornings. And these have been popular in the past with people from care homes, and our opportunity to cover different themes. I've got a list of the 2023, the first one to 2023, each time a different theme, and visitors can have a rather relaxed activity, a tea or coffee, piece of cake, and then enjoy one of these different sorts of activities. And one coming up at the end of March is around making terrariums, and you know that was a popular activity when we did it before. And I'll pause there in case of any questions.
Thanks, Ken.
Yes, thank you for that. And from the parent side of the older people back to the mini museum and the very youngest. And how do you make sure that you're getting the widest reach of socio-demographic young people as possible? How are you insighting this? Is it on social media? You do leaflets. We had a very successful event in Southland Tube event, of course, the museum staff hosted, and it was very popular. And what was noted was there were the games made in the healthy food and artifacts, but the children really enjoyed the quill pen writing and learned the Tudor alphabet. I thought that was lovely. The digital age actually like forming the letters and also meeting with Queen. That's Queen, this is the first. Okay. So sending the reach to as many young people.
I'll make a few comments. Robin might have some additional thoughts as well. But yes, we wanted to encourage a broad range of people to come visit the museum and enjoy the activities that take place here. We have a variety of different sort of ways of approaching people, and social media, we know, is very popular. Facebook, particularly for family events, is a very good one. We use the traditional media like the local newspaper, our website. We have one of the benefits of being part of the Norfolk Museum service is that we are able to work with colleagues centrally, and we have a very good marketing team centrally who assist and advise us as well. Leaflets we do in a sort of small way, so when people come to the museum and show an interest, we will have a piece of paper that we can give to them to promote future activities and events. And that's good for me. And I'm sure I've got the reports of useful information for you about Robin will explain.
Thank you, because it's something I think we all members like to make sure that people are just reach people.
Well, just to take Chair, absolutely, as Robin said, we've got a real mixed economy around how we promote our events, and you know, digital is really important in terms of websites and social media, and also we do direct electronic mailing using the county council system, so that has quite a good reach, including with our consultant. You know, there's still a place, as Robin said, for the traditional printed flyer and that type of approach, and then there's the word of mouth and the importance of front house teams in terms of promoting what we're doing. And it's also, you know, the whole of the team being excited and doing and able to promote it through whatever things are happening to run. And different audiences, you know, different more effective. But I think at the moment, you know, the evidence from the levels of attendance at events in King's Lynn and overall footfall to museums suggest seeing here are doing a really good job in terms of pulling the levers at their disposal. We haven't got the biggest marketing budget in the world, but I think we do and can effectively, and I think you can see the results of that in numbers, both in terms of specific events, but also general footfall in the museum. As always, it's always really helpful when members can use their networks to promote what we're doing. Because members are obviously very well plugged into their community as well. So if you've got any particular thoughts about how you can target marketing, then please do contact us and we'll take advantage of that.
Okay, Councillor July.
Thank you, Chair. First follow on from that, I was waiting for it to come under item 3. Question with regards to social media is that as a clinic, I did more it's used predominantly to profile its users and target advertising. So have you tried targeted advertising through social media, and is that something you would consider? 2 further questions. Thank you.
So it's not something that I'm aware of us having done in terms of social media. What we have used increasingly is Google advertising, which does enable you to target in terms of geography and demographics, but obviously that's a broader option than going on for specific individuals who were identified with social media. So Google advertising is something we have been doing, which we think has been successful. One of the challenges around digital advertising is actually quite difficult to know if it's had the impact. And some of you can obviously ask this when they arrive at site, how did you hear about us? What made you come here today? And that's probably one of the few ways in which you can assess if your paid for advertising has been successful. So Google adverts is something we have paid to do, not in a massive way, but just part of that mixed economy. Our social media approach is very much around using that on free marketing. It's not really the stuff that we can send the retweets and everything else that users will use. The copy that then gives us that real sort of market approaches. So as always, the world is ever changing with marketing in terms of what works. I think you can probably end up spending a lot of money on stuff that doesn't work. So we would take a very prudent approach with several marketing budgets and not massive. But I think we do in terms of social media, great to keep it as a way of activism. As far as I'm aware, the data which is doing.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to agenda item 2.1, I just want to pass on positive feedback from both the awards exhibitions. Everyone has seen them, spoken to me of them, have been faithful. So thank you for that. They really were excellent. And again, going to the tiger and our natural history and endangered species. I'm just thinking it's in our minds at the moment, wild, and we have fantastic natural history in the Wash promote, and perhaps something historical to understand what used to have home, shall we say, pelicans, which gave name ended up on the town's coat of arms, but no longer exist. So I'm just wondering if there's more afoot to promote the understanding of biodiversity species law. Thank you. I think that's an excellent point. And I mentioned benefits through museum service of marketing, but we also have natural history expertise, and our natural history curator, David Waterhouse, will be working with on that the title exhibition to make sure that we get our natural history right, and also to invite him over for talks. He gives an excellent talk, so I think that might be a good opportunity. But there are other ways that we can work these ideas. So thank you very much for that. I've made a note. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bird.
Thank you. I'll do this in order. Would you be maximising your shop sales by selling heavily So I guess,
I'm sure we will. We've got a very keen team, and they'll want to look for any opportunities possible.
Item two, coffee morning, to the end of March.
The problem ones will continue through the year. I think we miss out August, but otherwise they'll be not too good later.
So how do you sort out between people that are paying to come to the museum and those that come in free for the coffee morning?
I'm not exactly sure of the details, but there is a way, our team are very good at that, and there's a way of ensuring, so I can't remember exactly, but I'll come back to you, I'll make a note and come back to you.
Nice little loophole there, yesterday, in order to try and get even more footfall to your museum, I went and looked up the opening hours, because I wasn't sure if it was open on Sunday at the moment or not. When you put into your search engine into the museum, you get the first one up, well, I certainly get the first one up, which looks like the Lynn Museum. You go on the website button and it produces a generic one for all the museums and tells you basically nothing. So then you go down and then there's the one for the actual museum, and you've got opening times and that and charges. It's so much better. It's hard work to find out exactly what's going on. And as we're in the free entry period, that's right down the bottom. Surely that should be the top. That it's free entry. You've got to dig. It could be so much better without very much trouble. And we can look at it.
That's okay. Could I just ask, did you put King's Lynn Museum or just Lynn Museum? Because I think if you put Lynn Museum, that now came up with something different. I'm only making suggestions.
It's the Norfolk Museum Service one that you get to first, and that's hopeless.
Chair, I just, so I'm probably think that it's hopeless. I mean, it is, we are continually looking to improve the website, I can certainly pass feedback to the team. So we do have, as I'm sure members are aware, a website for the Norfolk Museum Service. Within that, we have dedicated areas for each site, and we have a consistent approach across that website in terms of things like opening hours and admission prices. So I'm sorry if that's sort of awkward to navigate. And I can certainly feedback on that and be free admission, not being,
I think as is so many times the case, it's done by somebody that knows too much. You need to show it to somebody that knows nothing to find out how to get it right for the people that know nothing.
Okay.
I'll pass it over.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bambridge.
I'm just going to tell you that I'm the fairly newly appointed carers champion for Norfolk County Council, and it's very, very early days, and so I'm concentrating a little bit on the west, but I need to go all over the county. But if you need to get any information to pass on to whoever I meet, I go to dementia cafes and things like that. So certainly for the care.
Thank you.
And so just me for small care.
And just say we have in the past few days with technical check who was carers champion previously, I think. So absolutely that's something we'd be keen to do.
Councillor Tyler.
Thank you. It's not my question, but I would agree with the council that for any organisation, museums, libraries, and what have you, it is always easier for people when the very first, when you put in a correct title, the very first thing you see is a straightforward, clear title, opening hours, just straightforward, a contact number or email address before you have, so you don't have to then go, oh, contacts, or then so. I just mentioned that in passing. But what I wanted to ask you, that's my comment, just what I wanted to ask you was, I'll go back to your relationship with marketing, the media, and so on and so forth. I was delighted, and I think we all were, that the Kingston Museum was featured on a Radio 4 programme about the sea henge and so on and so forth, which I think was great. A simple question: do you have a reasonably good relationship with TV and radio, national and local?
I'd like to say yes.
Right.
I think we do. We have a really, we're lucky in having an excellent PR and comms manager as more of it is based in Norwich, but he provides support across the whole service, and Esther maintains really positive relationships with Norfolk and press team, because we often deal with things in partnership with them. But also we work very regularly with regional and indeed national press and media, and the current exhibition at Norwich Castle, the Gloucester exhibition, is perhaps a really good example of that, where Esther is very much working with colleagues, seeing extraordinary level of reach, both nationally and internationally. I'd be surprised if anybody's not seen coverage around the Gloucester exhibition, either regional or national press or media. So that shows how successful we can be.
Yeah.
And it's the story we're telling, isn't it? And that's what sort of drives the media interest. But I think we do have quite an efficient mechanism for liaising with local media. None of us touched on the really positive relationships here in King's Lynn, but also with the press, Radio Norfolk, as well as with some national press that are on stories, and stories like Seahenge, obviously, particularly with the recent sort of pushing off from the British Museum exhibition. Obviously, it's great to see that sort of publicity, but then it's how that benefits Lynn statement. Possibly one of the contributors to the Lynn Museum having seen really good visiting. So I think it's always something we can work hard on. I think I say we're lucky in having a really good central team. We do benefit from really close working with press colleagues within the press team, but also we liaise regularly with colleagues in borough councils and indeed other key stakeholders, so it's really something we just have to keep working on. But I think we are getting, we do sort of have an efficient operation, and I think the end result, I think it does make more people aware of the services that are offered.
Thank you.
Just while I was thinking, it's really good that you can inspire so many young people to the museum, isn't it? Especially during school holiday activities. And I just wonder whether you have any decision made on having an event to celebrate the King Charles's coronation.
Yes, thank you for the question. The museum will be open on that Saturday for people to attend if they wish on the day. The team is working on ideas for how we can link into the theme of the coronation, and there are opportunities, for example, for family trail around the museum and other ideas. So we are on the case.
Good, thank you. Okay, so we'll now go on to other museum development, please.
Thank you. Yes, item 3, social media has been mentioned already in this meeting, and something that I want to show you in the report is the connection we've made once more with the people who did the scanning of the individual timbers. This is an organisation called Archaeoptics 3D, and through social media they've been sharing some of their reconstructions using the scans data. These are laser scans, careful 3-dimensional scanning of the individual timbers and the central upland oak tree as well. And they've been able to create some very interesting imagery. And one of the interesting things, when we put out this report, it's published, sometimes the local media will pick up on some of the stories that are featured. And this particular one was picked up by a local reporter. And so it would be a way of then sharing this new information that we've got on Stevenage for the people locally. And I think people will love to see these images. And we'll be meeting with the chat after shortly to think about options, what we could do in the future. 3D printing is something I don't know very much about, but I think there might be opportunities there to create reproductions of the timbers for use with our school children and families and so on. Social media also allows us to connect with our important stakeholders, and National Lottery Heritage Fund is one of these. We've got a promotion. A number of organisations that have received funding from Heritage Lottery Funds have opportunities for free admission on showing a lottery ticket. And because the museum is free anyway, what we do this Saturday is offering free tours of the displays to people to sort of introduction to Stevenage. And I know that we're at an 11 o'clock tour, which is now fully booked, sold out, and we've got a 10:15 tour as well, which is still got some places. So it's another way that we can connect to the important organisations that listen to us and support us. On-site volunteering has been mentioned, and as Robin says, this is a very important aspect of what we do, and we've now got the space where we can start us up again at the museum, which is great. Item 3.4 is a reference to the Radio 4 documentary, documentary about Stevenage. I think this only came into being because of the connection that we made with the British Museum and the loan to the British Museum last year. So that's been one of the outputs. And again, people listening to this sort of thing more likely to come visit at the museum, which is great. Item 3.7 I wanted to mention, which is that
Okay.
the Lynn Museum has benefited from a generous legacy given to the museum by the late Eric Newman. And they were a brother and sister who retired to common here near the time. And we know they visited the museum and were very interested in local history and helping children learn. And we're very grateful for their generosity. Item 3.8, staff training. I mentioned there, Norfolk mentioned this in the report, but this is sort of an ongoing thing for the team, the museum. And there we are on the photograph, learning about first aid, or refreshing ourselves about first aid in case there's an occasion to need this at the museum. And 3.9, public tiders have been mentioned, and in the photograph we've got other Stevenage related merchandise for people to have as souvenirs. One of the areas that we wanted to develop, working with our retail manager, Harriet Johnson, is developing the lines of souvenirs relating to the Taylor brothers, the secret merchants in King's Lynn. And Jim and Bob Taylor are very pleased with this idea, and we're working towards creating new cards and other opportunities really to display and offer up the souvenirs, the beautiful illustrations that accompany the seed packets and so on. So I think that would be really nice, and we're hoping when it's done that we can do some sort of presentation to the brothers in the museum. It will be a nice thing. Yes, I'm pleased with how that's working out. So that's the end of section 3. If there are any questions.
Yes. Different bronze age packers we use. How do you come to that? I mean, are all the actors identically shaped, or are they all different sizes, or Is it about the strength of the balloon to the wood? How did they work that out?
So this is one of the remarkable things that came from this very detailed study of the timbers, and the laser scanning really brought that to bear. And it's the different shapes and sizes, carefully illustrated in reports that we published in the years following the excavation of Seahenge. And it's a remarkable find, and one of the things that's particularly interesting is that this is in the very early stages of the Bronze Age, and yet here at Seahenge we've got a large number of different axes being used for creating these timbers, the monuments. So yes, it's one of the outcomes of this very detailed study of the timbers. So it's remarkable. Yes.
Have you got any Bronze Age axes in your collection?
There are some Bronze Age axes, and we've got some from a later period in the Hawks exhibition. So an opportunity for people to see those later axes, and we do have some similar to the ones that were the marks were found on the timbers. There weren't any from this early Bronze Age period discovered at the site of Seahenge, but some later Bronze Age axes, named pulse staves, have been found from the beach hole.
Thank you.
Councillor Bainbridge?
There is a home educators website, do you know that? It said about there is a large increase in children being educated at home. But it's sorry, you don't mean that. I mean, Facebook page, where they notice about events.
I think that's a very useful tip, and I'll pass that on to Melissa Ford, our learning officer, and I'm sure she'll be pleased to hear that. Thank you.
Chair, I really teams do sort of liaise with the home education networks that exist, and we facilitated certainly around Norwich Castle and in Britain visits following groups of home educated young people which bring together those networks. So rather than sort of taking the two, you're actually seeing quite a significant size of groups coming in, and we not obviously offer much further experience.
Well, I know there was great excitement when you were out of the legacy given to the Lynn. It's such great news, isn't it? Very good. Are you about to tell us how your plans for this legacy, please?
Yes, of course, yes. So we've started the process by recruiting a human curator, so an additional post, and that person will be able to work up the plans. So it gives us more capacity to develop ideas for improvements of the museum and in our sort of care and study understanding of the collections as well for the public benefit. Early ideas include updating the animated film, which is the interpretive tool we use for explaining about Seahenge and its environment. And this is one of the areas that we're hoping to see as an early improvement. It also gives an opportunity, as well as the new curator, the title as a way of honouring the gift from the humans. But we'll be able to, within the film, again, acknowledge and thank them for their generosity.
Are you able also to make the public more aware of our plans, drawings and equipment we have in stock?
Yes, the Savages collection for the museum is quite a thing. We've got, as well as a large number of engineering drawings, that's the other pieces. So we also have a wonderful collection of wooden plastic used for the making of the lights. And this gives us an opportunity to really catalogue, photograph, understand, provides access to this great collection. So I think there's lots of opportunities on savages. So that's very important.
Thank you. Councillor Burbridge?
I just asked a question on that. I didn't realise that Savage was an aeroplane. I think it's an aeroplane maker as well. Is that part of what's in the collection? I'm just out of interest. I wouldn't expect it should be, but I only heard about it recently.
Yes, they didn't make very many aeroplanes, but I think, but not very much in the collection. But I can see if I can find out what there is and share that with you.
I think there is an interesting anecdote share about the manufacturing of aircraft salvage works, which was obviously during World War I. And considering the size of the engineering works, they were producing the diversity of product they did extraordinary enough. But adding aircraft is quite something. But the anecdote I heard was that when test pilots came to the works to collect the aircraft, they were able to choose one of the production lines to accompany them on the first flight as an incentive to make sure that production values were what they should. I don't know if that's true, but the program was told that as Oliver said, it just sort of highlights the extraordinary diversity of the skills within that works. That they could produce not only really innovative better and lines from the heavy machinery that ran them through to the fine craftsmanship of the wooden animals and so on, but also producing farm equipment and tractor engines and all sorts of things. So maybe we can consider that quite a small process.
Well, I think this is obviously a very clever man. It started off as the rights of it, and developed all these things. But lots of people in those days did just start to.
Sure, I think it was unusual to have the privilege of naming his own statue.
Councillor Burke?
Yes, thanks. With the savages connection, I know first we've got some savages, so I think there's still 3 other similar types of collections around the country. Do we let them know that you've got all the drawings and everything, so that a visitor there can then come here?
That's a very, very good thought, and one of the aspirations with the drawings is to get them scanned, and then they can be available for anyone to see. But I think making contact with the other sites which do have such as material is a very good thought. We have sort of an occasional contact, but I'll make a note to have contact with this good thought.
And certainly, Chair, in the past, we've had examples of people visiting the stores to actually take measurements of the pattern when they're actually looking to replace parts of salvages roles that are currently in operation. Not that many. But that's, as I said, digitizing those records in their own right, they're really important. But also one that's still living in terms of the salvages engines that still operate around the country.
Councillor Tim?
Following on the fact that Lynn was very much at the centre of advanced engineering with savages and governments and Coopers, the Cooper's car. I understood that they're actually got a programme of digitising artefacts. Where are we with this? What actually is on the internet? How accessible is it? We don't pay for it, and to what extent does it include the outside and science?
So it's a work in progress really with digitalisation. So we have done a lot, and that's where volunteers helped us, and the drawings by Henry and Von Spanus, for example, are done and up there using the photograph collection. We had an excellent volunteer who worked his way through the photograph collections, and they're digitalised and online. So the Norfolk collection website is a good place to go, and that's where you can see the scans and photographs, two-dimensional material, as well as what we have in terms of three-dimensional objects and those access to those records. But there's still much more to do, and we do plan to work particularly with these savages drawings. That's another area that we're working on. So we're not much in savages drawings. That's a big project, so it's not easy to.
This one, that opportunity for traineeship or apprenticeship and digitising the artifacts. And so it sounded a big piece of work that would create an opportunity for a young person to take on.
Just to say that absolutely, we have had a number of trainees based within both curatorial teams such as here in Lynn, but also within our collections team based in Norwich, so that we regularly have a teaching museum trainee based with the collections team and digitising collections in part of that remit. As Oliver said, the collections that we digitise are all available through our collections catalogue, which is accessible through our museum's website. There's a collection section on the website, and if you go onto that, you can explore the collections we have across the service, including here and there. And as digitalisation will be taken, those images are uploaded, so anybody can access them. And that's free of charge, obviously. As Oliver mentioned, as part of the remit of this new curator role, we see digitising more of the collections being a priority and making more of those collections accessible to as many audience as possible. And some of that will be done, no doubt, by the curator, but it's also around that person having the opportunity to recruit more volunteers and to provide those opportunities for volunteer teams, because that's the way in which we're going to get through a really large body of material with the aim of getting as much online as possible, but also making sure that the quality of the images online, again, is as good as they can be. In other words, for images online, we want to make sure that the quality is there. So there's certainly lots to see already on the collection website. As Oliver said, it's pretty much work in progress. And one of the positives around this the new legacy is that will enable us to put additional resource into increasing the number of objects that people can access online. As well as anything more visible.
Thank you. That's a general.
I just wanted to ask whether is there a average plane still in existence, and if not, have you got plans? As Andy knows, they quite recently built a steam locomotive from scratch following the plans. Have you got plans which you could actually, produce a plan to rebuild?
We're not aware of any savages planes in existence. We don't currently have plans to make a new one and identify health and safety officers. That's what to say about that.
As a project for
But I think as a project, I mean, sometimes you have to think out of the box, don't you, for projects that can inspire an interest in the past and interest in scientists and engineering works. And maybe creation of a model aeroplane, it might be something that could be.
you do have the plans.
So we've got photographs, and I don't know if we've got plans of the aeroplane, unfortunately, but it may be something like something we can look into.
Because it worked well with the steam locomotive. What's the name of that locomotive? Yeah, it's like running on main line. Steam on main line, built from scratch a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there was a documentary about it. Quite a project. Yeah, I wanted to ask you what a slightly different change of subject. What basis? I've never asked this question before. What basis does the retail side of the museum in Lynn have? Is it just something that your visitors, like to have a souvenir, so it's a service there for them? Is it, on the other hand, quite a lucrative side of the museum or not financially? And how important is it to, as you mentioned here, you develop that retail side? But, how financially, how does it feature in the museum? Whether that be to do with, whether it's more to do with visiting the Lynn Museum or whether it's more connected with the county.
That's fine. So, thank you, Councillor Carter. We operate a pretty comprehensive retail service across the county. We have a retail manager, Eric Johnson, who's based in Norwich, but who provides support for colleagues across the 10 sites, including here in the museum. And Eric was appointed last year and has, I think, really been very effective in terms of establishing really good relationships with the local teams, but also thinking creatively about the type of stock that we carry, because whilst it is a valuable part of the service that we offer to business, it does also generate income that forms part of our overall income targets for the service. So we recognise for a lot of visitors being able to find something with the right qualities and memento is very important. It does also help the bottom line of the service, and the more that we can do to maximise our retail income, obviously, the better, because that then enables us to do a lot of other things. So what Harriet, I think, has been very aware of is that the fact that each of our museum shops are different. They obviously recognise the local sort of branding, but also what traditionally sells well in different shop brand service is different. So, you know, historically, for example, the Lynn Museum has always been really effective at selling local publications and greetings cards. And I think it is a place that people go to seek those things out. What we also do, I think quite well, particularly under Harriet's leadership, is to get in stock that's relevant to temporary exhibitions. So I think Ford's exhibitions on the Lynn Museum is a really good example of that, where Harriet did commission some excellent photography by from David Kerr to not only support the marketing and social media around the exhibition, but also then to enable us to create a live retail stock. We can do things in further with those guys that have been selling well. And where we've seen those sorts of exhibition themed retail offers at some sites, they've been really impactful. So the Sing Twins exhibition, for example, Norfolk that closed last month. I think at one point nearly 70% of retail sales were being generated by stock traders specifically for that exhibition. And it's a similar story with the soft lines created for the current exhibition. Pictures Gloucester. So I think they're working, and the trick to it is knowing what works in the individual sites, liaising with the local site-based teams who know their sites and their audiences best, and then creating a line of stock that you know, isn't done at risk, because we want to reward lots of stuff we can't sell. But gives you enough variety of visitors to have a bit of choice, but also something that's a bit different, not something you can find elsewhere in the country, and also with the right quality. So it's important, you know, I think it is part of this job, but it is also part of the bottom line of it.
Okay, can I have a very quick question, very simple one? Can you only pay and buy even if things from the Lynn Museum by visiting it or getting a friend to go and get them? Is there any other way that you can receive anything from the museum or buy anything from the museum without you or a friend who's your family member visiting?
So we are in the process at the moment of developing an online shop for the Norfolk Museum Service retail.
What shop?
An online shop so that you can buy online. We're just sort of negotiating the complexities of that, because it obviously has to comply with county council decisions. And we've actually got a meeting this week looking at that. So the likelihood is it will start in a relatively modest way, and then we look to build from that. It's about how you resource that online shop And again, we want to sort of walk before we run with that in terms of understanding what the demand is, whether that's for all of our lines or for a specific line. Is it, for example, focusing primarily on temporary exhibition stock, and then making a formal decision about a level at which we sort of pitch that. But it's the way of the future. People expect to be able to buy your stock online.
Thank you. Councillor Bell?
Well, so having just discovered the London Transport Museum's online shop, I was going to ask the same question.
Good. I'm sure it'll be successful. Okay, so we go to partnerships. Please.
Thank you, yes. Page 22 partnership, we work closely with our friends and colleagues at Borough Council to help with curatorial and conservation advice for the collections held by the town hall, including fine art and civic regalia. On the regalia front, I learned today that my colleague Dane Woolbright has been helping by providing protective equipment for the town's maces. And this last weekend, I think it's a weekend project, was to create a tighter lining to the bags that are used for when the maces and such and the sword need to go out to the bags. So this is an example, very practical example of how we're working to help the Borough Council look after their special things.
Yeah, we've got a new officer for place at the borough, and I was explaining to him about our really good service level agreement we have with them. So he was really interested to know that so county and borough working together.
Good. So there's some other examples in this section, including the work to support the project in Guildhall in the town, and I know Dan's working with Rachel Williams and other colleagues on a project to create a festival event around the Shakespeare birthday of April. And there are plenty of activities being planned at the Guildhall after Easter then. Lynn Museum benefits from a good admission period through the winter months, and we're just come to the end of our free admission period, and again, it's something which is part of the circular agreement with Borough Council and helps provide good access to the museum's collections and events through the winter months for local residents. We work closely with Rachel Williams on activities at Store in Lynn and supporting, for example, the work with young people and other projects, including the display of items in the exhibition space in Store in Lynn. And it's another example of the support. And item 4.5. Another practical example, I mentioned the bag, and also getting further advice on one of the civic maces. These are objects that are special, precious objects, but are to be used and are used in part of their ceremonial occasions. And sometimes they do get damaged. And again, we'll be offering advice on repair of one of the civic maces that we had recently. And I mentioned there's a photograph there of a clock which was a private loan to the displays at the Cotton House some 30 years ago, and the lender asked for it back. And so again, there was work to be done to organise safe transport and return of the clock, and for it to be set into working condition, which was another of the conditions of the loan. So that's another example of how we were able to source a horologist for this particular work.
Okay.
I just saw it finally in section 4.6, the displays that the stores of Lynn suffered damage from a torrential rain episode before Christmas, and that requires a lot of sorting out of the displays following from that. And again, that's another example of how the museum service, a team came quickly to support this emergency, and things are all being put right again now.
Just one minute, Councillor Bevans.
Well, I'm just saying it's been back to normal now, or is it still work going on?
If it's nearly back to normal,
It's more or less.
the case that we've got to be relined and we're waiting for some fabric for that, but it's nearly back to normal.
And have we put in place something to sort that? Yeah.
Or demand the borough.
Yes, I was going to say that. the problem-
You know about it.
Well, we obviously do provide whatever advice and work closely with the borough team. I'm sure that borough historic building people are very aware of the issues, and partly it's because of the nature of this initially Victorian building, and it wasn't extreme.
It was.
Yeah.
I think it affected many heritage buildings. No, the move was affected. It's great. So
Yeah, I have in my diary here for next Tuesday, there was something about the town stories in Lynn in the town hall, but I'm not sure that was something you could arrange. I got this from the records, and whether it's isn't happening.
I'm sorry,
It was about 6 o'clock on town hall on next Tuesday. But it was a specific thing we invited to. I don't know. I think it was from Luke.
through the records, that's.
Yeah.
I'll check with Luke and ask him to send you some further detail.
Yes, yeah, thanks.
Next person, Councillor Duvall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not totally sure, but I would like to congratulate you on the British Museum relationship, and really wondering if you're looking to expand our relationship with other museums from what we've been talking about, perhaps the National Maritime Museum, the Royal Observatories, Natural History Museum, perhaps closer to home, museums in Cambridge. Thank you.
No, thank you for the question. As you say, the relationship with the British Museum has been a really strong one. Obviously, it's been fantastic here in King's Lynn. But it's also been a very long-standing partnership of the service, and I'm sure that members are aware. Next year we'll be seeing the opening of the British Museum Partnership Gallery, which is key element within the new Norwich Castle redevelopment. So there'll be a permanent British Museum presence in Norfolk as a result of that project. But it also is indicative of the strength of the long-term relationship with the British Museum, which includes curators, learning colleagues, marketing colleagues, retail colleagues, all working together. And we expect that to continue and actually to sort of develop more as a result of that. We're not doing a meeting tomorrow, we're with colleagues looking at the step. So that's really positive. Members may not be aware that so this committee, in fact, we're also working on a development in terms of the findings in the Great North. And part of that, which includes a redevelopment site, which is 20 years old. Next year, it's a site of line, 20 years old. We are looking to develop a formal partnership with the National Maritime Museum. And again, there's been a long track record of working with colleagues at Greenwich, particularly at time to time, as there's a sort of commonality around themes, but also at Norwich Castle and their Lynn current Gloucester exhibition, and also lent significant loans for the Nelson exhibition, and it's made a call from a few years ago. But as with the British Museum partnership, we're hoping that the partnership with Time will take that relationship to a different level. We also work very closely with other national museums. As I mentioned, we benefit from the support of our especially subject curators. So colleagues like State Water, who's an artistic curator, obviously does work closely with colleagues, museum, artistic museum, and that often results in loans or joint events benefiting sites across the service. And in terms of museums close at home, we do work regularly with colleagues at whether it's the Central Centre or Museum Cambridge or Conflicted Museum Service, partly through our role as the provider of the development programs we share, but also through long-established project work. And prior to the Arts Role in International Portfolio Organisation Programme Museum, we did have a formal partnership with Cambridge University Museums, museums and Conflicted Museums as part of what then the Renaissance season hub. So there's a long track record of working with those organisations to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's okay. I believe you had your
the partnerships with museums. I always remember the museum we had at 27 King Street, the costume museum. It's been there for years. Fantastic costume and museum in Bath, and I was wondering whether we could bring back a costume museum, because there was some fantastic 18th century costumes which would be quite nice to have that. And also the custom house, which is 4.5. Now we've talked about the sacred journal along his clock. Now this, I believe, might have been from that office on the first floor, which was in Vancouver style as a custom exercise officer. That was right. Is that still there? Because obviously it's next to the Greyfriars art gallery at the moment. And is there any sort of museum up there? What's happening with that? And obviously with access, well, public access to the custom house. Could you sort of be mindful on those points, please?
In terms of costume and textile with DNA, again, we do work really closely with the DNA. In fact, they're lending objects for the new galleries at Norwich Castle, part of the Royal Palace Reborn project there. We obviously do have our own costume and textile department based in Norwich, but supporting colleagues across the service, which have wonderful collections, sort of national significance, but also there is a really good, as you would say, a really good costume collection here in King's Lynn, and we do feature costume within the displays at Lynn Museum, and there is a rotation of those displays on a regular basis for conservation purposes, but also to give visitors a chance to sort of see more of the costume that we have within our collections. I wouldn't say everyone's any plans for a new costume museum, but the collections are really good. And going back to our earlier discussion, I think providing access to those collections, including catalogue digital access, really important. And again, it's one of those really rich parts of the collections here in Kingsland that we want to really focus on, and that's something that the community resource will be able to facilitate. But I think we sort of sometimes take granted in Kingsland, and members know that we have fantastic collections. In terms of breadth of collections here in Kingsland, whether it's fine art, whether it's costume, archaeology, really good collection, and providing means to make it accessible is really important.
I mentioned about the customs house that is within the town deal board, the riverfront regeneration. And many of the artifacts are still upstairs, and occasionally it is open. But the Greyfriars gallery only allowed to use the bottom half because of security reasons. Did I see someone else found out? Sorry.
Yeah, just a suggestion, and apologies if you have done something similar in recent years, but obviously we've talked a lot about things that King's Lynn is famous for, and so on and so forth, fishing and all the rest of it. One of the things also, as you know, that Lynn is famous for and has a good quality tradition, of course, is the arts, performing arts, with the King's Lynn Festival and so on and so forth. Would you consider at some time in the future an exhibition or some sort of big event celebrating that side of things, perhaps including all those famous musicians, artists, writers and so on that visited Lynn through the King's Lynn Festival, and have some nice displays, photographs and so on, perhaps gear it to local schools and organisations. If you've done something similar before, my apologies, but just like the thought, we always talk about the fishing connections and all the other, and the sea hens and all the rest of it, and there was a very strong arts connection in Lynn and tradition. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Councillor Clark, and I absolutely agree with the strength of that sort of tradition. And we do work closely with King's Festival, and Oliver and colleagues have worked with them on a number of their festival exhibitions. We've also in the past taken advantage of additional funding, so for example the Look Sideways East programme, where we work with the festival to develop their offer beyond the sort of core tradition or festival areas through our curation of, I think it was 3 on contemporary art shows in the morning. I think it would probably sit best with the festival to sort of originate a sort of an exhibition program that celebrated the history of that organisation, but I'm sure that they would do that. So work with them and vision that they're holding.
It'd be nice, say for example, as far as the museum is concerned, it would be nice to come in one day, I don't know, see the Shakespeare, the little Shakespeare section, and then I don't know, King's Lynn Festival view, you know what I mean. And so all the aspects of the arts and connected with King's Lynn and the rest of Norfolk are interesting. And as you say, probably it would have to be something in association or initiated by the festival, but just before.
Yeah, and really good thought, and I'll hand over to Oliver. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity there as well in terms of the future programming within the Guildhall as part of the redevelopment. I think that might be in some ways a sort of more appropriate home for that type of or celebration event, and I'm sure as we happened with the festival previously, we'd be very happy to support that, and I thought that would be more appropriate than the living. But we have had, as Oliver I'm sure mentioned, complimentary events happening at the museum, including sort of recycling. So I think we always try and support the festival as much as we can. And I'm sure, and I think we're right, there's a really good heritage there to celebrate, and I think that probably sits better within the Guildhall than perhaps the biggest. I think
yes, just a couple of short points. One is, yes, I agree that the Lynn Museum can be a performance space for the festival for today's performing arts, and we have done successfully in the past. And we also hold within our archive material ephemera and other material relating to the history of programs and so on for the festival, which could certainly be used in the future for some sort of exhibition related to the festival. And there is, of course, that wonderful collection of photographs. We supported the festival office with the conservation of photographs, which combines the walls of the four arms, and I think they're a wonderful record. I can't believe the big names that came to King's Lynn and before.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then so I was getting on. Should we look at the learning and outreach?
Yes, so item 5.1, for many years we've had a training to be mentioned in this meeting, and Katie Crowson has been our trainee, and we're delighted that she's secured a job working with the Science Museum, and she's working a big project with their stored collections at a new facility just outside that's Swindon. So she's working there, and she sent us a photograph of a cute little toy robot that she discovered in the store, and which was interesting. So we're delighted that the people who come to work with us to learn about museums then go on to find secure museum work elsewhere. So that's great success. The wonderful Wild Isles program that's currently being streamed on television, amazing footage, is the starting point for children's projects, Wild Escape, and this is using a creative response to art and nature that we're working with learning officers highlighted that for this report. 5.3, we continue to welcome school children who learn about their local heritage and can see there an illustration from one of the local schools showing how much they enjoyed their visit. And we're pleased to do joint workshops with the Stories of Lynn, so working in partnership with Rachel at Stories, and the children will typically have a morning at one site and then the afternoon at the other, and taking those displays and both sites. So that's great. Home education has been mentioned already, and it's interesting that after COVID, that's increased the thing in county, and the museum service is working to see how we can support children learning at home as a public science with learning and this sport. And I think that probably ends that section.
I think so. The kick the death will probably also combine it with Rachel Williams. Important as well. I mean, that's been a huge success, hasn't it? The kick the death. And there's a celebration conference, isn't it, at the end of this month as well? Kick the death in Norwich. So sorry, can't you right?
Thank you, Chair. On item 5 in the report, I've noted elsewhere that the transport school visit is a deal breaker. You can offer something for free, but if the schools can't get transport, you're not going to get school children there. Is there any way of identifying, or have you looked at the possibilities of identifying funding so that schools can get to these events? Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we do have a number of bursaries in place to support school transport. And as you say, with some schools, particularly smaller schools, which aren't unfortunately in West Norfolk, school transport costs can be real barriers, so we do work hard to offset those with the bursaries.
I've also seen some schools actually share the transport as well in Norfolk, which is good, because like I say, we've got some small schools in the region.
We have, and it is a real challenge for schools, but we have limited resources at our disposal, and obviously with the pressures on families impacting on the ability of schools to ask for greater contributions. We do what we can to help this.
Thank you. Okay. Did you just want to mention about the kick the death and how successful it has been in some reports from the young people?
Yeah, so Chair, you've got the report. You just pick out a couple of real highlights that happened until beginning of March. Since the project began, we've now seen something like nearly 13,500 interventions involving nearly 4,500 individual people. And that's well in advance of the 8,000 interventions that was the original project target. We're continuing to see the vast majority of activities delivered and developed by young people. So young people are now taking a leadership role in devising and developing activities, and that includes young people taking active part in the project steering group. We continue to operate a program, and we are continuing to identify a significant number of young people who are reporting mental health challenges. If we make areas, I think something like 25% of participants are currently reporting mental health challenges. And And linked to that, we're now developing our work with public health colleagues and the county council around ensuring that within our activity evaluation, we are measuring public health outcomes, so that we can actually really measure the impact of our work around young people's mental health. And we are getting some funding from public health to support that work over the new financial year. So Lynn is very familiar with the detail of the report, so I won't go through it. But just to continue to reassure members that the project continues to deliver really successfully. And we are looking ahead with confidence to the next sort of iteration of the project. So just to update members in terms of where we are with funding, the current National Heritage Fund funding will keep that comes from at the end of March. We have now secured 3 years additional funding from Arts Council England through an uplift to our National Portfolio Organisation funding, enabling us to retain the project team to continue to deliver us branded activities, so we'll keep that name. And within the Arts Council activity, King's Lynn will be one of the priority places because it's one of Arts Council's priorities, so that we will continue to deliver really good quality kick-off activities here in King's Lynn. As part of that, we're going to be developing a partnership with the library service, so working with library colleagues who already engaged with Frankfurt with us, but really sort of setting that up a level and looking at new ways that we can use libraries as a base for activity, as well as sort of working with some of the groups that libraries already have contributed. So it takes getting that to an interesting new direction, as well as enabling us to build on what we've already been doing. I mentioned that we secured public health funding for Norfolk County to next financial year. So that's going to be supporting our county coordinator post. And then we're waiting on the outcome of our round 1 National Heritage Fund application in partnership with YMCA for Leicester, which will see us successful as securing development funding, participating at the see a 4-year project going forward with impacts across not just Norfolk, but East England and East Midlands. So lots of reasons to be really positive about it. That's project team continuing to deliver really sort of strong impacts, and yeah, that project continues to build the message.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to thank everybody involved with us on these Rachel Williams with enthusiasm. It's been extraordinarily successful, and I'm pleased to hear it will evolve, and again, into 2026. Does the source from the Arts Council allow for extinction and some confidence in permanency in this? And again, are there any areas that you within the draft that this is not at the moment that that we're going to lose as a consequence of changing funding? Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely right. Rachel Williams taking all credit for the work she's doing here in King's Lynn. As part of the county-wide team, she's doing really sort of powerful impacts on young people, and you can see evidence in the detail of the project she's been involved with, a number of which are on the Kick-Dust pages on the NLA website. I think it's fair that one can never say funding is permanent, particularly in the current environment, but I think what we can say is that Kick-Dust is now, embedded in what we do as a museum service. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's just part of how we deliver our programs now. It's been really successful, and I think that we've already secured, funding for the next 3 years indicates that, success really. And I think because we can evidence really powerful impacts for young people through the comprehensive evaluation we have done. That makes it a lot easier to convince funders, frankly, that this project that will continue to deliver. So I'm very confident that we'll be able to maintain the momentum and keep with us. And certainly in King's Lynn, no change to what we're currently doing in terms of audiences and programs, but I think real opportunity to develop into new areas and really build on a program that's sort of developed and is long. It's also a program that tries things, some of which don't work, some of which do. So I think that will particularly us recognising that, you know, some things may need to start and new things start. But ultimately it's around developing a program that meets the needs of young people which will evolve. And you know, we'll continue to be evaluating really carefully to ensure that we get evidence impact and also, you know, adjust our program as we go. So I think it's something about, although we secured 3-year plan in the Arts Council, which can really screen an action plan for year one, the experience tells us that by the time we get to year one, you know, things will change shape and we need to do things in a different way. So it's a project, a program that's evolving all the time. But it's very much around responding to the needs of young people and realising the opportunities within our collections. Thank you.
Yes, it has. I mean, it's been really good to see so many young people inspired by heritage and history. I mean, they produced a collection of card games, which is dealing with the Civil War. They've made an Egyptian board game, haven't they? Done some filming of some of our heritage buildings. They've done some amazing work, and you can really read the reports here how they feel afterwards. So they gain confidence. Some of them have gained work, and some of them gone to college. It's really inspiring. I'm really pleased something similar is going to continue, because we can't just close heritage and put a fence around it, a ring fence it to just those who are interested. Those who don't know what's on offer, at least it's going to help young people to realise what is on offer. And there's different aspects of things to do outside of their family life. So that's really good. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'm really pleased you've got some you can plan ahead as well, because it is to do with health as well, isn't it? Or art and heritage and stuff, and helps our heritage, whatever our age is.
Well, I think the health and well-being aspect, really evolved, particularly, you know, because of COVID, but I think it also shows how that program is very much aligning with priorities from the county council, district councils, and key arts council. And there's a lot of interest actually. We met with senior colleagues in the arts council a couple of weeks ago, and they were really interested in the work we were doing with public health around prevention, in terms of young people's mental health and well-being, and the opportunity to sort of use heritage and culture as a means of giving more opportunity to young people in, you know, facing real challenges.
So now we have the attendance figures in front of us. Thank you, Arthur. Do we know, I mean, the attendance figures for the museum is really good, isn't it? Do we know how many thousands of school children is amongst that attendance figure?
That's a good question of Robin's, whether it's Arthur's laptop.
Okay.
But I wanted to say that Lynn, for the various reasons that we've explained through the meeting, it's doing very well at the moment. And one of the things I've noted before coming here today was that the total this sort of gives well, an illustration of the effects of COVID over the last several years, but pre-COVID, we were expecting in the sort of the 3 years before COVID struck, the total for the museum works out just under 17,000 visitors. And it looks like to me that if we went out the same number that we had March last year, we're likely to get more, but we'll be topping that. So it'll be sort of back to where we were before COVID, which is very pleasing.
Yeah, it's really good one.
And Chair, just to say that the Lynn Museum, the sort of average school attendance, if you like, in the course of the year, so the last full year was 21-22, which was just over 1,800 individual school children coming in. Those numbers form part of those overall figures. In addition to that, we also have the school numbers recorded through Rachel Williams's work, which includes it's principally school visits to stores of Lynn, which obviously we manage. They're on in partnership with Borough Council, and also some of the related school activity happening at locations such as the Guild Room, and again in 21-22, that's around 1,500 school children. So that's 3,500 between the two topics, which is some of the considers relatively small size of the museum as a service pre-COVID and before the construction work started at Norfolk Castle, which have affected capacity there because of lack of space, where we were averaging around 50,000 school visits a year, and the castle traditionally was about 20,000 of those, graphic all the time about 10. And then the other side's picking up the remaining thousands, but you can see that that's a good number of school children making use of
Yeah, no, it's really good. No, and it's a lovely atmosphere. I mean, I go in there not that often, but when I go in, there's usually 2 school groups in there, and it's really lovely atmosphere. It really sounds busy, and the children are always busy. But it's really good mood. But the last time I was there was a school from Wyndham, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, as going back to the earlier question regarding school transport costs, one of the great advantages of the many things that they can offer very affordable visits to museums that are within walking distance. And a number of local primaries in the centre who might potentially struggle with sort of raising visits that they can walk to the site. It's really important, and this is works really hard and rich as well with their schools to facilitate those sort of
Good, thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much. So our next item is True's Yard, and unfortunately the manager hasn't been able to attend, but we've all had the report and we've had it for quite a while. I'd just like to say that they also have school visits, and of course their friends at the museum are very supportive. As Lindsay put here, they usually have 6, but they're hoping for 8 fundraising, and they're all through the year, and they're not always at the museum. There's one at the golf club, for instance, Cheese and Wine, and there's been some barbecues at different places. So it's a really successful museum. As you can see, they have different days for different age groups as well. They also a warm space at the moment to have a profit just for parents. Yes. Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Chair. It's really more an observation than a question. I'm very lucky to have True's Yard as a museum, and I think the selection of exhibitions are superb. But I do know that we have a number of portraits in this very town hall that we perhaps do a little bit of public airing and might be lent to these exhibitions.
Yeah, some of them will be during the summer. I'm not sure they come from the town hall, but I know some of the portraits which we have will be offered for True's Yard.
Thank you. That's appreciated. Thank you.
Any questions? And you can always pop in and ask if you have any questions. Pop into the museum. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll pass that. And we have Rachel's report here, the Learning and Engagement Officer for both stores in Lynn and the desk. I mean, I can't give her report justice really. It's such an excellent report, isn't it? And we're always thankful for her work. She's an employee of the county as well as the borough. So she does work very hard for all of us. And even on outdoor events like the Heritage Day or the Hansa Festival, Rachel's there with her support for something exciting for children to take part. As you can see, she worked with Churchill Park School as well. Christmas lighting, the mark opening, which is great because it's encouraging young people to actually be aware why we have these events. Not just purely accident why the mark comes on the 14th of February every year for over 800 years. And so these young people have learned all about the history, and they'll obviously attend and be in the parade as well, the opening parade. It's excellent news. Any questions? Okay, we can answer them if there are. Okay, thank you very much. So then it comes on to agenda item number 8, the tourism marketing update. And I always ask for these because I feel that tourism is so important part of our borough, and the Lynn Museum is a very important part of our tourism marketing as well, and we work in partnership with them. So it's important for us all to have this report. Plus the fact that the whole of the borough councils, they can also read this report knowing how we're all working together. And unfortunately, Philip has got another meeting today. So he's asked if you have any questions, either we can pass it on to him or I can try and answer them. But as you can see, the printed marketing information is still going ahead. And I'm sure many of you who walk around the town all during the year have seen many people with these fantastic Discover Kings Lynn maps, because they are fantastic. They do promote all the other heritage buildings within Kings Lynn. And then of course there's the Handstands Mini and the Down Market Mini Gardens as well. And Philip is also put in here about the other publications. He works with partnerships to put together, and all the digital marketing, the website, working with Visit Norfolk and Visit East of England. Thanks for that.
I was very pleased to see those continuing to print
Yeah.
publication. Sadly, in this year, obviously, just to go online.
Okay.
We know from our experience that awful lot of people don't have the internet, don't go online for things. So they're going to lose out probably. We're not.
Well, I must admit, when I was on the cabinet, I always said we must have printed information. So I do hope it continues, because I know I'm the older generation, and I do use websites and social media, but I do feel it's really nice to have a piece of paper with a map in your hand, so you can follow it a lot easier when you're visiting towns. Okay, so there's lots of other marketing. The Green and West Norfolk is some fantastic photographs, which is actually on social media for people in publicising our area. We've got a fantastic place for people to walk, haven't we? And it's good to tell everybody all our walking trails, and because that's another partnership we're working with county walking trails as well. We have so many in West Norfolk, and joining up with the Norfolk trail going all around the coast. And thanks to Canon Mark Darling of the Minister, who's now putting together a Walsall trail, because there is a Walsall trail from Walsall to Norwich, and we'd like to have one from Kings Lynn to Walsall. So Canon Mark Darling is working with that, and he's visited many councils which this trial will be going through, and they're all very happy that it will continue through their villages. One of the new activities we will be having shortly for residents and for visitors is the launch of the Handstanton Observatory, which Philip's enabled to get a grant for that, and it's now slowly being built at Handstanton. And we have marvellous dark skies in areas like Handstanton. As Councillor Bud knows, our villages have many dark skies, so it's important to bring tourism for that reason as well. Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, it has been noted, whether or not there will be equipment available for the observatory.
Not particular equipment, but I believe that I have attended some of the meetings, and I believe there'll be like screens with interpretation boards as well, and they are hoping to encourage schools to make use of that. But the last meeting I attended, they were hoping to have like screens, TV type of screens, so they could put up information for when they have school visits or when they have lectures and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
And then at the back, there's a list of all the partnerships with the tourism department works with.
See, the problem is around us in my part of the,
Please.
in West
Microphone.
Norfolk. The problem around West Norfolk, where I live, everything gets referred to as North Norfolk.
I know.
And I keep trying to
I
get
know.
people to think of West Norfolk, Burnham Market
Mm.
and Creeks, etc. is West Norfolk. They still get magazine from Norfolk.
I've had many discussions about that aspect.
It's discussed for a long time now.
Yes, yeah. But we do, our leaflets go into places like Burnham Market, like Thornton, where they also have Norfolk leaflets, but our leaflets go in there as well. Okay. Any further questions? No? Okay then, so just to say, this is my last meeting since about 1999. I haven't chaired the Area Museums Committee all that time, but a long time I have been chairing it, but it's been a huge pleasure. And I've known the museum ever since I was a child. I used to visit there on Tuesday when my father came to the wholesalers. So it's a little bit like home, Lynn Museum. So it's been a real pleasure to actually chair these meetings. So, and as the report today, we've got an excellent partnership with Norfolk Museum Service. And I know it will continue. So thank you everyone very much indeed. And thank you, Robin and Oliver. It's been a great pleasure. Councillor Bambridge.
I think a big thank you goes to you. I could want to add something else, but I'm thankful for what you're saying.
Did you want to say that as well?
Well, just if you missed the lecture at the museum, there's one here on Wednesday, the civics, it's down the bullet. And I missed that, I missed all the others because I've had other engagements. Giving my fingers, oh, I need that, because I'm fixed.
And you get a glass of wine.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. And I have brought some biscuits and grapes if you want to drink a biscuit or a grape before you go home. So I'll close this meeting. The date of the next meeting hasn't been confirmed because of the Borough Council elections in May, but it will be confirmed after that first year. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well, thank you very much.
Right, is that everything?